So Josh Allen was just named AFC Offensive Player of the Week, and if you guys can see the cereal box behind me, and he just absolutely went off against Seattle. But it seems like everybody is going off against Seattle. So I think the Seahawks defense are probably the worst defense in the league this year. They're bottom in DVOA. They're bottom in basically every metric you can think of besides run defense because teams are just throwing all over them. And a long time ago, when I was still in the womb, there was this one thing called the Legion of Boom. And I watched said Legion of Boom blow out my team 43-8 in the Super Bowl. And then they got a little worse. I mean, I guess they kind of got figured out. And then Dan Quinn, who was the mastermind of the Legion of Boom, went to Atlanta, absolutely destroyed their defense there. They did not get any better. They were terrible for a long time until they got fired. I mean, they're still terrible now, but yeah, he basically did. So Josh Allen on Sunday went 31 for 38, 3 touchdowns, 7 sacks. He got sacked 7 times, but I mean, I guess your team's scoring 48 or 44 a game. That doesn't really matter. And the Buffalo running backs are absolutely terrible. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. The RB1 in Buffalo is Josh Allen. Zach Moss went 9 for 18 with a touchdown. Devin Singletary went 2 for 1. And Josh Allen also went 7 for 14 in a tug. As far as receiving leaders, so Stephon Diggs, 9 for 118. John Brown, 8 for 99. Gabriel Davis, 4 for 70 with a tug. Cole Beasley, 3 for 39. Devin Singletary, 3 for 33. So they did a pretty good job at spreading the ball around, too. And if 2 years ago, or even last year, if you told me that Buffalo would have 34 rushing yards, I would have said that they would have gotten absolutely killed. Because Josh Allen rode that elite defense to a playoff spot last year. This year, it's the exact opposite. The Bills' defense is, I think, sneakily one of the worst units in the league. But the only defense that I can think of off the top of my head that is definitely way worse is the team who just allowed 44 points to their quarterback. Josh Allen is having a breakout season, and I'm not entirely surprised that he popped off against Seattle. The Seahawks defense has been absolutely putrid this year. So before the 49ers game, when they allowed 27 points to Nick Mullins, of all people, they allowed 37 to Arizona in that overtime game. And the thing right now is that the Seahawks are not playing complimentary football. Their offense isn't helping them out. I mean, Russell Wilson is having an amazing year, and through the first 5-6 weeks of the season, he was the MVP favorite. But he keeps turning it over and puts the defense in bad spots. Now, I'm not saying that Russell Wilson's a bad quarterback, because he's obviously not. The Seahawks would probably be, I don't even know where they'd be without him at this point, because they have Wilson, Lockett, Carson, Metcalf, and a bunch of other playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, but their defense has just been downright miserable this year. So, said Sunday night game against Arizona, Russell Wilson went 388, 33 for 50, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, and then Tyler Lockett went 200, 15 catches, 3 touchdowns. And you'd think that normally that would be good enough to win a football game. But on the other side of the ball, Kyler Murray went 34 for 48, 360 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. And DeAndre Hopkins went 10 receptions, 103 yards, and a tug. Before that, they allowed 26 to Minnesota. And you're saying, oh, Minnesota's a decent offense, pretty good offense. That was without Dalvin Cook. Alexander Mattison was their running back. And the Vikings without Dalvin Cook this year would be absolutely miserable. They'd be in the hunt for Trevor Lawrence. They allowed 31 to the Cowboys, but the Cowboys before Dak were pretty fire. But they allowed 30 to the Cam Newton Patriots. The only other team to allow 30 to the Cam Newton Patriots this year was the fucking Jets Monday night. They allowed 25 to Atlanta, but Atlanta's good. The amount of talent on the defensive side of the ball, Bobby Wagner just traded, keep in mind, they just traded 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. And to be completely honest, I thought that was the right move because, the Seahawks have been absolutely terrible at drafting over the past few years. And, you want to give up those first-round picks, they're probably going to be late picks, so you don't really have a whole lot to lose by trading for Jamal Adams. But Jamal Adams in coverage this year has been awful. He's a demon when he's blitzing the quarterback. He's a demon when he lines up. He's more of an edge rusher than anything else this year. So when I opened the video, I said that Seattle was basically terrible in every defensive metric possible, but that's wrong because points against this year they are 28th in the league. Now they've already had their bye week, so this doesn't spell very good for them. But I mean, they're 16th in sacks and 5th in interceptions. But what do teams do when they're behind all game? Russell Wilson's just throwing dimes all over the field. They're going to be passing all the damn time. So yeah, they got the sacks and the interceptions, but that doesn't make them a good defense. So in the middle of December, the Seahawks play the Jets. Now this would normally spell pretty good for the Seahawks, but I think they're about to make Sam Darnold look like prime Peyton Manning, and they're going to win like 48-30. And they basically tricked us into thinking that Cam Newton was still in MVP form. And to this day, some of the dudes I know up in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, all the New England states are still waiting for the return of pre-COVID Cam Newton. So who's the architect of the Legion of Gloom? It is none other than Ken Norton. So in 2017, after the first 10 games, the Raiders had 0 interceptions and 15 sacks. After they fired Ken Norton, let me look this up. So they had 5 interceptions and 16 sacks in only 6 fewer games, and they allowed 80 yards per game fewer. And there's a lot of precedence to fire an awful coordinator, like I just mentioned, the Raiders fired Ken Norton after their really bad start in 2017. And then also don't forget that the Ravens fired their offensive coordinator, Cam Cameron, in 2012, and then they won the whole damn thing afterwards. Like I was saying, Russell didn't exactly help them on Sunday, but Buffalo scored every time they touched the ball. That is not on anyone except the defense. So halfway through 2020, the Seahawks are about to set the record, or they are at least on pace to set the record for most yards allowed in NFL history. So the Seahawks right now are averaging 456 yards a game through 8 games, and that is on pace for 7,296. The only team that I can think of, or that was even remotely close, that still has the record to this day is the 2012 Saints. And I just got this tweet from Andrew Siciliano, who's the dude who runs Red Zone. So the Seahawks are not just on pace for the worst pass defense in NFL history, they are primed to shatter that record by nearly 1,000 yards. The 2011 Packers, who had the worst pass defense in NFL history, allowed 4,796. The 2020 Seahawks are on pace to allow 5,794. So they're on pace to allow 998 more yards than the worst pass defense in NFL history. Jared Goff is about to drop the biggest, since I'm making this video, he's about to drop the biggest 200 for one game you have ever seen. And could you guys imagine if Russell Wilson had to play against his own defense right now? Like, fucking yikes. And also, like I said, I don't think Jamal Adams is that bad. Like, safeties in general always look really bad if the corners look bad. But considering the mammoth price tag he has, 2 first-round picks, they even swapped safeties. He really has not lived up to that monster price tag that Seattle had to pay for him. And if you want to be a $20 million a year player, you probably should not be that bad or that dependent on the dudes around you. And people were shitting on Greg Williams after Greg Williams said that Seattle wouldn't use him right in the offseason after they lost him. And people were just like, oh, Greg Williams is just salty because he coached the Jets. But now the Seattle Seahawks are not using Jamal Adams right. He's just getting exposed by worse and worse slot receivers every week. And I guess part of that is due to the Patriots game. After getting absolutely cooked by Edelman, his coverage, respect has gone absolutely out the window. It's kind of like Jalen Ramsey after the 2017 season. People still know he's good, but considering the fact that all he did was trash talk during 2017 and he hasn't really lived up to that merit afterwards, it's just like a thing where the Seahawks are getting so much media coverage this year that Jamal Adams is definitely going to get a lot of slander considering how bad that whole unit is. And as far as who the best team in the NFC is, I have seen enough from the Seahawks defense to know that it sure as hell is not Seattle. I do not care how good Russell Wilson, I do not care how good DK Metcalf is playing. I do not care that Tyler Lockett went 200 for 15 against Arizona's secondary. They are not getting anywhere in January if they do not fix this. As of right now, the only teams I can think of, or all the teams I can think of in the NFC that are better than them are the Saints, the Packers, the Buccaneers, maybe, and just maybe, I would take the team that that the Seahawks just beat last week, the 49ers, above them. I would definitely take Arizona over them because Arizona's defense is bad, but they're not playing terrible complementary football. Kyler Murray doesn't immediately throw a pick after his team allows a touchdown. Carlos Dunlap looks good. I guess that's the one positive from this past game. But I think part of the issue is without Chris Carson, that teams just know they're going to pass. Teams are not scared of Carlos Hyde. They're not scared of DJ Dallas. They're not scared of Travis Homer. So they just basically know that the Seahawks are going to throw the ball all game. They can just sit back in zone and just blitz the hell out of him. And Russell Wilson doesn't have the same excuse he had like 3 years ago. Like 3 years ago, the 2017 Seahawks offensive line was probably the worst I have ever seen. But they've kind of cleaned it up. I mean, it's not as bad as it used to be. It didn't play great Sunday against the Bills, but I mean, I just don't know, man. And the Seahawks used to give up a ton of yards to tight ends back in the day. But I guess they can't give up a ton of yards to tight ends now because they just give up 3 times as many to opposing teams' wide receivers. And schematically, what the Seahawks do now is they rush 5 and they let the corners play 10 yards off so that they don't allow the explosive plays. Because Buffalo's offense is explosive, don't get me wrong. But then Buffalo will just cut underneath them, and whoever the other wide receiver is, whether it's Hopkins, I know they got Woods and Kupp in the division too, they're just going to burn them for 15 yards of play. And, they're not going to give up the touchdown, but, 15 yards of play, the other team's eventually going to score a touchdown. So I just don't understand what Ken Norton is doing now. And so back then, I don't know if you guys remember, but the Legion of Boom actually did give up a lot of yards to, like, the actual dink and dunk offenses. Think the Patriots in the Super Bowl, think Phillip Rivers in 2014. But now the difference is that they'd give up no yak. They would punish the opposing receivers, and then eventually they would make them pay with turnovers. And I know that limited time in the offseason and probably a weird training camp and basically no preseason this year probably hurt them a lot. But they're 9 weeks in the season, and they're only getting worse. 2017, after getting punched in the mouth by Todd Gurley and the Rams, they basically fired everyone. They decided that they were not going to have this anymore. They were tired of watching teams just run all over them since they won the Super Bowl. And I think they need another coaching purge. I mean, if you guys remember, the Seahawks before this year ran the ball like 40, 45 times a game. And there is absolutely zero excuse for that when Russell Wilson is your quarterback. And one more thing, the Seahawks play the Rams this weekend. So the Seahawks have held the McVay-era Rams below 28 points one time in 6 meetings. And here are some of the players on Seattle's defense in that said game, where they actually were able to hold the Rams under 28 points. Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, Sheldon Richardson, Michael Bennett, Frank Clark, Cam Chancellor, and Justin Coleman. And this week, I predict it's just going to be more of the same from what we've seen the Pete Carroll Seahawks try to do against the McVay Rams. So they're probably going to rush 4 or 5, never get to Goff, play conservatively, just pray that Goff can miss a throw while he has all day to run his plays. And this is not what Miami did to the Rams when they played him. They showed pretty much zero respect to Goff. And, yeah, they were able to make the Rams' offense life a living hell. That's what the Ravens did last year, too. Because the good defenses are not scared of Goff. The way McVay makes other defenses pay is in the run game. But, I don't know. With how bad Seattle's defense has been this year, I just expect Goff to go, I know I said earlier in the video that he's going to go 200 for 1. But the reality is he's probably going to go 349 for 4 like Kyler Murray did 3 weeks ago. And the Seahawks are just going to be absolutely miserable. They're not going to win anything in the playoffs. And they got to get it together. Alright guys, that is going to do it for the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not already. Follow me on Twitter. Link is up there or in the description below. Anyways guys, have a good day and peace out.